Africa, the cradle of humanity. Yet many of its children today are cradled not in nurture, but in torment and pain. They face habitual beating and humiliation. They witness rape as a weapon of war. For some, this is their preparation for the evil of child soldiering. Forced to commit violence towards others, they become victims too.
I was 9 years when I was captured by the rebels. In front of me, they killed my two friends. They raped my sister and they killed her in front of me. They raped my mother and killed her in front of me. So I felt bad. I thought I would die next.
You know, everybody loves a baby, right? Everybody says they love children. And how could they subject them to any type of violence, be it bullying at school, physical, sexual, beating, name it?
Africa's children are its hope for the future, yet many face a future without hope. Violence is a destructive force, affecting individual children and society as a whole. Routine violence in war, at school, at home, and in institutions has left generations of children exposed to constant abuse.
The thug you see on the streets, the thug you see on the political arena, I think these are people who were mistreated, maltreated as children.
Joseph witnessed the brutal slaying of his mother and sister. His childhood was stolen by the murderous rebels. Conflict has consumed Sierra Leone's youth. He became one of 10,000 child soldiers in Sierra Leone for whom violence became a way of life, a way of death.
They never let us go anywhere until they gave us drugs. Marijuana, cocaine. They injected us with it. They forced us to take it whether you like it or not. So you lose your conscience and do whatever they want you to do. In our eyes, human beings were no more than chickens. You decide to do bad, but you don't know what it's bad. You feel you're doing a good job. They gave us weapons to shoot at people and to loot. I just took it as a hobby. The younger children are even worse than the older ones. We took part in everything bad.
Forced to attack and murder members of their own community, children have no hope of returning home.
Children were hired as child soldiers, carrying guns, killing family members and neighbors, burning down towns and villages, and in some cases, adults were giving them drugs so that they could carry out those atrocities.
It's not just in times of war children are exposed to violence. In Zimbabwe, half of all rapes are committed against victims under the age of 15. In Uganda, 95% of girls have been victims of some kind of sexual abuse. And on this day, and every day in Africa, 6,000 girls will be mutilated in the name of tradition.
Any culture that does harm to society is not worth the paper it's written on. Using culture and tradition as an excuse, you should not commit any type of crime or harmful practices against another human being.
Of course, we have like female genital mutilation. We have early child marriages. We have child soldiers. We cannot say that is Africa. We cannot say that is the Africa situation.
Girls are born to the highest risk. The African Child Policy Forum works across Africa to reduce this risk and see the realization of rights for all children.
Our studies show that both at home and at school, girls are victims of violence much more than boys.
It's not culture. It's just unacceptable behavior that exposes girls to sexual abuse behind the closed doors of homes, schools, and workplaces. Girls like Sarah must be empowered to tell their story and for people to listen. Her name has been changed to protect her identity.
Until I was 3 years old, I lived with my father and mother. Then when my mother and father got divorced, I started living with my stepfather and my mother. I was afraid of him. He was scolding and beating up my mother. I am still afraid of him. I did everything he asked me to do. He was threatening me with a knife. He wanted me to have sex with him. It started happening from when I was 8 years old.
Sarah suffered in silence for 9 years. How can we help children to break their silence when their abusers are those they should be able to trust?
It's much more quiet, it's much more silent. It doesn't come out because the child is always expecting that this person I trust, though they abused me today, probably tomorrow they will change and they will not abuse me. So then it continues. It becomes a sequence, it becomes a process.
It happened every week. I wanted to talk to somebody, but if I did, he would also harm my mother. And I didn't want her to get divorced because of me. I always told him to stop. I always try to protect myself. I always tell him not to touch me.
Violence at home, the ravages of HIV, the savagery of war. All these factors have driven thousands of children across Africa onto the streets of cities in search of a better life.
I don't know why you don't already start but I don't know what you're after.
We always try to establish the causes why children are on streets. Some of the reasons that these children run away from homes because of violence against them.
Why do you again make this as also to do that work?
No, they were hungry, but for me I just end up money to buy for them food.
Were you the one who are feeding them?
No, they come to me. They wanted some money from me to eat, but I doesn't have any money.
Having fled violence at home, many only find more of the same when they hit the streets. This was the grim reality for Chandiga Swamad, until he found a way out.
On the streets, I was the one I could care about the others who had bad hair, what. I knew someday I would be a hairdresser and a good one. This is my salon. My name's Chandiga Swamad. It's a unisex salon that includes hair cutting, braiding, weaving, retouching, and anything as far as hair dressing is concerned. That's what we do here.
Against all the odds, Swamad now has his own business and has even bigger ambitions for the future. It is a far cry from life on the streets and the torment of his home life, which he left behind at just 12 years old.
Because of that man, I cannot go there just like that. We had some domestic work just like that, but he substituted all the work. I'm the one who had to do it, and up before going to school, so I used to go to school late. They used to cane me at school, and if I had to leave that work undone, I could get some punishment from him. He used electric wire, and there is a kind of cane here in Buganda. It's known as Oluga. Whoever knows Oluga knows how much it pains.
For years, Swamad had to tolerate painful beatings at the hands of his stepfather. It was the day he stood up to his abuser that finally drove him to flee.
There was a method that they used for charcoal stove. They used it to do it in the fire. So he brought it, started doing what? He put it at my shoulder. So it was so painful that it propelled me even to push him and just like that. But this time I had rebelled against him, so I had to find my own way. I ran away.
At just 12, Swamad was living rough on the streets of Uganda's capital. In his new life, violence would play just as big a part as it had in the life he had left behind. Despite violence as a way of life between Swamad and the other children, it was beatings at the hands of the authorities that left the biggest scars.
They came at night, they beat us very severely. Whoever they suspect that is a street child. Even at one incident, they broke the arm of one of our during the beatings.
For Officer Karamura Patrick, times have changed. His department is determined to reach out to the children and work with local NGOs to rescue kids exposed to violence in any walk of life. According to Patrick, the most important task is to build rapport with the kids.
It's the endeavor that we must put a program where the street kids are, getting involved. I think you saw there behind, some of them were trying to come up and talk to the police. And then we tell them, we say, don't fear police. When we are mobilizing and calling you, just come. And then we talk to you, we identify all about you, and we help you.
Even if police across Africa develop better understandings of the rights of children, the public also needs to have greater compassion.
Because in many occasions, in many times, the community looks at them as a menace, as though they are disturbing them, they don't need them. Sometimes they beat them up and roughen them up and injure them. Then we talk to them about the fact that the children as well, they also have the rights.
In Ethiopia, considering the rights of children has reached the next level of law enforcement. They have established courts specifically dealing with children that have been victims of abuse. The new courts enable children to testify against those they are accusing without coming face to face.
The courtroom arrangement was not child-friendly, and as a result of this, it was very intimidating. It was more of punitive rather than, curative and rehabilitative type of things. So, but the new arrangement is totally different from the previous one.
Betty, a specially trained intermediary, helps child witnesses to testify.
Okay, this is a room that I will be bringing the child victims. As you can see, the room is very friendly for children, especially for children. And as you can see, there is a microphone, an earphone, and also a camera. Using the microphone, I will ask the victim, the child victim, and so as they could hear down there.
And through the camera will bring out the picture, and everything done is seen through the television. So this is how, and we have also a television screen for the judge, and this one is for the public, and this is how we conduct the business.
I feel emotionally, down when I heard this story, emotionally disturbed. But when you see the outcome of them speaking here, and what will that do to the accused, I feel very satisfied.
The courts are a great step forward and show that change is taking place. After 9 years of repeated rape by her stepfather, Sarah and her mother were brave enough to bring a case of abuse to court. They were supported by the Children's Legal Protection Center of the African Child Policy Forum, which provides legal and psychosocial services to children.
The last violent act was when I was almost 18. My younger sister was sleeping with me. She saw him when he was trying to have sex with me, and I told her. In the end, my mother found out as my younger sister told her. At the beginning, we went to the CPU, Child Protection Unit. At the police, they were very supportive. It was the court that let him go easily. Because I was 18, I was the one who was confronting him. He was lying in front of me, and I was really worried. He was bailed out for 3,000 birr. Since he knows that he will be found guilty, we are afraid that he might do something to us. He might harm us.
After posting his bail of less than $300, Sarah's stepfather disappeared. He is yet to be brought to justice. Often it is only after getting the opportunity to talk about their ordeal that victims of abuse begin to understand that it is not their fault. The simple act of allowing a child's voice to be heard is empowering. Across Africa, in schools and youth clubs, children are getting a chance to speak.
We've been here to talk about violence against girls. In your experience, and when you talk with your friends, and from what you see, violence against girls, where is it usually?
School.
In school also?
Teachers.
How?
Like, maybe they don't have daughters. They see you are a very cute girl. They take you to their homes, cheating you that carry my books, meet me at somewhere. The teacher rapes you and tries to say that I'm gaining more power with you than tells you you are the head girl when you're just a low learner.
Girls are especially vulnerable to violence. However, other females are consistently perpetrators of psychological and physical abuse. Mothers, sisters, female teachers, and relatives. This indicates a horrible cycle of abused becoming abuser. Yet that doesn't need to be the case. Edith is now a sexual health counselor working with women in the slums of Kampala. She has made a new life for herself after she was forced into prostitution by her aunt.
After dropping out of school, my auntie came for me. She told me that she is bringing me to town to work with her in a certain canteen. I stayed with her for about 2 to 3 years. But from the time she brought me, I used to work from morning till night. But she was not giving me the money, telling me that I take lunch and shelter. That's what she was paying. After some time, she told me the money we are getting here is not enough. Then she came, she told me there's a certain small bar. You will be working there. I said yes. If I'm going to get money, no problem with it. You should get any man from those drunkards. And that I should get any means of getting money from those men. At times those men did not want to use the condoms just because they are older than me. I had no decision. I had nowhere to report them. I had no idea about anything. So I had to talk to my auntie, but she was not listening to me. They forced me into having sex with them. When I did not do it, she had to beat me up.
Eventually, Edith was forced to marry a man twice her age, but ran away and was helped by the Ugandan Youth Development Link to start a better life. Through the use of vocational skills organizations such as the one that helped Edith, children across Africa are being rescued, taken from abusive and violent situations and given hope for the future, in places like this rehabilitation center, just outside Kampala. Here, they are provided with some of the education they missed out on and given the opportunity to live life as a child. After facing the horror of seeing his family murdered in front of him and partaking in unthinkable atrocities, a former child soldier like Joseph can also be rehabilitated.
Quest for Peace is a community-based education project that promotes peace building and skills needed to non-violence.
Quest for Peace.
There was a project by Plan called Quest for Peace. They used to play a film about animals that were in danger. So one day, I decided to watch the film.
I go watch the film.
The charity Plan helps children to come to terms with their violent past through the use of films and books.
The film depicts real-life stories of children who have faced violence, horror. It depicts suffering, it depicts pain, and at the end, it depicts courage. That is how a child can respond to the loss of a parent or to the loss of a loved one. They were able to translate that, oh yes, this happened to me, or this happened to my relative, or this happened to my neighbor.
Asking for and gaining forgiveness from their families can seem impossible.
Quest for Peace helped me.
The Quest for Peace has helped me greatly